Take 4. Welcome to Viking Preparedness, you warriors, jarls, and berserkers. I am PJ, Sitrep. I have a training event getting ready to start, 45 minutes, and I'm still not quite ready for it, but I want to get this out to you. So, things happening, of course, always happening. I try to give you my take on it, and here we go. Evidently, the U.S. military is very concerned and is taking active steps, and I submit they are probably on it to the best of their ability and panicking a little bit. They have discovered Chinese malware, malicious code built into systems that in the event of war with China, they think, China will activate this malware and it will shut down, amongst other things, the utilities, the electricity, the water, the internet to U.S. military bases. The thing is, these military bases are not closed systems, so it also affects the civilian infrastructure around them. And yeah, if the Chinese decided to activate all that malware at once, it would be a detriment to our ability to do the things we want to do. If one cannot pump gas from the base gas pump into your tank to load it onto the lowboy to take it to the port to ship it to the war, because nothing's coming out of the pump, you're affecting things. Not only that, this is typical Chinese asymmetric warfare, because it will not just affect the military on the bases, it'll affect their families. And then that gets in the head of the military decision makers and operators and things like that. So yeah, that's happening. And then did you hear in the San Joaquin Valley, they discovered a Chinese biolab. They are characterizing it as that they were working on developing test kits, to test to see if you have the vid or dun. You know what they're not saying? What if they're developing bioweapons in situ? You think they're not? I don't know. What if they are? What if they're just going to develop bioweapons and release them nearby? If they have the ability to to test and then make vaccine kits, they have the ability to make the weapon itself. Ugly, what is fixing to be unleashed, I think. And I mean that specifically. I just watched a special yesterday. I don't know who, or I'd direct you to it, talking about the Chinese private military companies right now all over Africa. There's more than, and they're all former military, and they're kind of like nudge, nudge, wink, wink, kind of like the Little Green Men, Wagner Group for Russia. China's doing it too. We did it for a while, and we probably still are on a smaller scale with Blackwater, G, Triple Canopy, things like that. And the thing that gets me is, one, that is military power ready to use. Two, they constantly say these are private corporations. Well, in the Chinese case, it's at least 51% owned by the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. But even in the case of Blackwater/G, private corporation, we can't compete with them. All our special operators are leaving and going to Blackwater because they pay better. All of Blackwater's contracts were paid for by the U.S. government. Therefore, the U.S. government was giving the money to Blackwater, who probably gave about half of that to the actual contractors, who that was a lot more than they were making. So in my mind, the U.S. government could have just upped the special operator pay and they would have stayed. There's nothing private about this, gang, and it's going to get worse. You've heard already, but it just kind of in my mind is going together about the secret Chinese police stations. And all we saw on the news is that they disrupted one and closed it down, I think in New York City. What about all the other ones? Of course, we're not doing anything about that. There is stuff happening in this country right now getting set for the big go. And to cut to the chase of this whole video, I think World War III is nigh. I won't say imminent, I'll say nigh. World War III is nigh. All right. So you best take the steps you think you need to take to get ready for that. Okay, there was a drone attack again in Moscow. Some drones evidently crashed into and blew up part of a building, perhaps buildings in Moscow. In Moscow, Ukrainian drones flown into Moscow and blown up. I doubt they took off from Ukraine, but what do I know? This whole thing is getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. I expect, here's my prediction, maybe before this even gets uploaded, I expect Russia to retaliate with some painful strikes on Kiev. I think that's going to happen. Boom, 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 boom. So keep watching that as long as we're in that region. I said the other day that Poland is building up forces on the Belarus border, saying as their reason, like you need a reason to move your own forces around inside your own country, but saying that they fear, they probably didn't use that word fear because it's a weak word, saying that they fear Wagner because Wagner is in eastern Belarus right now in bases training Belarusian commandos, saying they fear that they could come in and attack Poland. That's utter ridiculousness. The Poles know it. The Belarusians know it. Wagner knows it. Wagner ain't gonna invade Poland. Just not gonna happen. What's gonna happen? Oh, well, let me just finish that thought. So I just read today that they're doubling down, and now they're saying, Poles are saying they fear Wagner infiltrators to come in. And so they're building up and building up. They are going to move, as Russia has said, they are going to move into Western Ukraine in order to protect. And there's a reason that Putin gave Belarus nukes. Because if Belarus nukes somebody, it's not Russia. And I'm just saying that whole thing is starting to heat up, heat up. Poland is trying to cobble together a coalition of the willing, not NATO, but NATO members who go into Ukraine as if to actively fight on Ukraine's behalf, as if that's going to stop anything, because they probably don't think, they probably know exactly what's going to happen, but the kind of logic is we're going to send, let's just say, Poles and others into Ukraine to fight the Russians, and that battle will be contained here in Ukraine, thus not having Article 5 of NATO invoked. An attack on one is an attack on all. If you think that the Russians will confine their response to, in this case, Polish military in Ukraine killing Russians, I think you're gravely mistaken. I would expect Minsk to feel something. And then Article 5 would be in. And so the Russians play chess, not checkers, and they can see a couple moves ahead. We are in peril. We are in peril. Of what, PJ? Of what? Nuclear attack. Out of the blue, but it's not out of the blue. All right, so Hezbollah is evidently building bases supposedly to be used by Iran in Lebanon so that the Iranians can move in entire military units into bases. Gang, that Israel-Iran thing is weeks, possibly days away from going off, I think. I think one thing that is slowing an Israeli move is all the problems they're having at home vis-a-vis Netanyahu et al. Trying to changing the role of their Supreme Court in some matters. It's all very over there, and I don't personally care a lot. I just know that there's turmoil internally in Israel, which makes Israel's enemies happy and then gives them a green light to move and do things like build bases and move Iranian troops in them because Israel's too tied up internally. That's going to happen here. Our enemies understand asymmetric warfare, and just like the biolabs, just like the police stations, just like the private military corporations of Chinese and others, Russians, that are everywhere, just like we are. If they get the go code, there's going to be chaos here at home. and in Scotland and in England and, wherever. Germany will just roll over. Okay, I watched with interest the UFO testimony in front of a congressional committee. I know one of the three guys that testified texted back and forth a little bit. Literally, he was texting me as he was walking out of there. The reveal, in my opinion, is coming soon. Soon, it will be made known. It's all part of the deception. It's all part of the deception. Genesis 6, go back and read it. Try to understand. That's all I'm going to go for on this video because I actually may release this video on YouTube. But it's coming, and it's a big lie. It's a big lie. They're coming for your brain. They want your will. They want your soul. So that's going to happen soon. I just thought that was interesting. It's interesting how all these things are coming together at once. And then, is this the last thing? Yeah, we have a brother and sister in Chi-Town right now in Chicago. And it's just funny. It's not funny, it's sad to read the news after every weekend, how many people were shot, how many people were killed in just one town, city, Chicago. Every weekend. And nobody goes crazy about that, but one person goes into a school and kills, 6 people, and oh my gosh, let's just talk about this for days, and we must have a response. But in Chi-Town, no, let them kill each other in Chicago, Chicagoans. Evidently, there were a group of women's gathered on a street corner just after midnight. I'm sure there was alcohol and recreational substances involved, but they're all gathered. A black Jeep pulls up, people pile out of the Jeep and commence to shooting. Pop, 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 pop. They killed so far 1 person and wounded 9. What was that? What was that all about? I think that was probably a hit. That was probably one group sending a message to another group. And the women were probably the women of that group that was being delivered the message. It smacks to me, and I'm getting outside of my comfort zone and what I know. So I'm just throwing my 2 cents in there. It sounds to me like a turf battle's getting ready to happen, or is happening and is bubbling up. Someone sent a message, and I believe that there will probably be a response, and it will probably be ugly. And of course, defund the police, put the people in power that we put in power who will do nothing about it. Chaos is coming, and that works to their benefit. They want you screaming for control. They want you begging them to take over and take charge. Who's they, PJ? All right, that's it. I really got to get going. I'm behind the power curve. I just wanted to get that out, hopefully get it uploaded before midnight tonight. All right. I appreciate y'all. Stay frosty. Keep preparing. This thing's fixing to get big. And I think when it goes, it's going to go really quickly. You're not going to have time to run to Walmart. So if you want to run to Walmart, do that now. All right. I'll see you out there.